What is the difference between IAM user and IAM role? IAM
Yes,
user would be a user of an application, that it's basically a person that needs access to something, whereas an
okay.
IAM role would be a set of permissions that's clumped together.
But set of permission is also attached with the user, then what is the main difference between them?
A set of permissions is attached to the user through a role. So the way that I'm understanding it is that at the very
No,
base of it, there's
we
there's
can't set the
permissions.
permission. We cannot set the permission of the user through role. If you remember, we use the role for what? For services communication, right? If you
Mm,
remember in our previous lecture, we attached the role for what service? We attach the role to the EC2 instance, right? And what is
mhm.
the purpose of attaching the role to the EC2 instance in our previous lecture? Do you remember?
Um, explain. Ask me the question one more time.
So basically, I asked you, what is the purpose of attaching the role with with our EC2 instance?
The purpose of attaching the role is so that you could
So
assign a set of permissions to a user, to an
no.
administrator.
So tomorrow's lecture, I say you there is a difference between IAM user and the role, right? So whenever we want to give some user access to our AWS account, we are going to use the IAM user, right? So we go to the IAM and then create the user and then attach some policies to it, right? Or we can say some permissions to that user, right? But we
Hmm.
cannot attach the role with the IAM user, right? So basically, IAM role is specifically attached with some of AWS services, right? So you always
Hmm.
remember that role is only made for AWS services. And what is the purpose of attaching the role with the AWS services is that to make the communication between two or more services. If you remember in our previous lecture, we did the communication between the EC2 server and our S3 bucket, right?
Hmm.
When we go to the EC2 instance and when we are writing the command to list the some name of the bucket, we are unable to do it, right? If you remember. So how we enable it? We just make a role and attach the permission S3 bucket permission to that role. And after attaching this permission and after creating the role, we attach this role to our EC2 instance. And once it attached with our EC2 instance, our EC2 instance are unable to communicate with this S3 bucket, right?
Hmm.
So you have to remember that whenever someone asks you what is the difference between user and role, so role is basically attached between AWS services, right? And what is the
Hmm.
purpose of creating a role? To give the permission of AWS one service to other service, right? So, and what is the purpose of creating IAM user? So basically, IAM user is created specifically for the some users which you want to give access to your AWS account or services, right? And you always remember that we cannot attach any type of the role with the IAM user, right? We are basically
Hmm.
attaching set of permission with the IAM user directly, right?
Hmm.
So that's the main difference between the IAM users and the role, right?
Okay, so let me let me
And
let me explain it back to
yeah,
you.
yeah, sure.
Hold on. Let me do something here real quick. In AWS, can you explain the difference to me between IAM user and IAM role.
Did you share your screen or not?
Yeah, I can share my screen. 1 second. Okay. IAM user represents a specific individual and application that needs to interact with AWS services. So you make me a user account, I am a user. It has
Yeah,
permanent credentials, which is username, password, and access keys and things like that tied to a specific AWS account.
yeah,
Permissions are assigned directly through the IAM policies.
yes.
And an example would be a developer logs into IS management console, IAM user to manage EC2 instances.
Hmm.
Okay, I understand that user. The role represents a temporary set of permissions that can be assumed by an IAM user. An AWS
Did you?
service or an
Hmm.
external identity does not have permanent credentials. Instead, it issues temporary security credentials via STS. What does STS stand for?
STS means I think it is a something like a security credentials type, right? Which we can say the temporary access to some user. So
Okay.
basically it tells you that if the two of the services want to communicate with each other, so instead of giving the access of particular make IAM user for that particular service is not a good idea, right? So that's why we make a role that is basically assuming your identity, right? Assuming your identity means that you gave this service permission to communicate with this service.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically the means, right? So it doesn't have any permanent credential, or we cannot set any type of the credential for the role, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
remember when we created a role yesterday, we just go to the role and attach some policies to it, and after that just we click on create button, right? We doesn't set for any type of the credential like username and password. But if you remember when we created the IAM user, we set some username and password for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main difference between IAM role and IAM user, right? So role is basically assumed and IAM role is basically the set, right?
Okay,
Set the
so
credential.
that's the same thing I was saying. This is the same exact in Okta. So in Okta, I can log into my Okta and I can grant you a, let's just say a, I don't know, a local administrator, whatever
Right.
credentials, or maybe a super
Mm-hmm.
admin even. So with that I guess, sorry, I take that back. I can give you access to my Okta and you can log in as an admin. Okay.
Right.
That would be your user and you would have username and password to log in with. Now, when I'm making your user account, at that moment, I believe I also have the option of selecting your role, which would give your user the set of permissions that you would need. For example, if I say
Mm,
that you're going to be a super admin, right? When you log in to your account, you will have, after you logged in, you will have super admin level privileges. But I set
yeah.
up that role when I was creating your user account. Okay.
Right.
So isn't that the same thing here? Is this any different?
No, yes, that's the difference. So basically, I'm telling you, whenever we create some user, right, and when we are going to set some permission for that user, we are not going to attach some role for it, right? We are basically attach that policies directly. For example, if I want to give user a super admin permission, right? So when I am creating some user, and if I want to give him the super admin permission, then I am going to just go to directly attach policies and just looking for a super admin permission policy and just click on attach, right? So it automatically attach, right? For attaching the policies to the user, we are not able to create a role for it, right? So in AWS, we only create a role for specifically AWS services, right? So that's the main difference, right? So whenever you creating a IAM user, right, to give some access to the user, so you can just add some policies directly to the user, right? But when you are going to create a role, so role is particularly created for the particular AWS services, right? That wants to communicate with each other, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you see the example in IAM role, so it says when EC2 instance want to communicate with the S3 bucket, then you need to make a role, right? So role is
Mm-hmm.
not basically created for the user, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we don't have any need to create a role for the user, because we can attach the direct policies to that particular user, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's why we doesn't any need any type of the role need to create a user and attach this role to the user, right? So we only create a role for specifically AWS services, right? And we are going to attach only role for those services that want to communicate with each other, right? So in our previous example, if you remember, we make a communication between EC2 instance and S3 bucket, right? And to make
Mm-hmm.
a communication, we need to attach a role with these two instance to make it unable to communicate with our bucket, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we attach the role. But when we creating the IAM user, we doesn't attach any type of the role with it, right? We directly attach the policies to the IAM user, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can authenticate it by just logging into your AWS account. So please log in into your AWS account so you can get rid of this whatever this problem is, right? So could you please go to your AWS account? So you can use my mine account. I just give you a permission previously. Did you remember the username and password which I gave you?
Um,
Yeah, I think it's saved. Maybe just click on I am username. Move your cursor into the I am username. Yeah, just look up. I think no.
I
You
don't think
open
so.
you open this. Count it to the same. Okay, let me check if I found the username. So your username is Rafi slash dev
Hmm?
double two one. Rafi dash dev, and the account ID is correct. So user in username you need to write Rafi dash dev.
Okay.
And do you remember you set the password? Yeah, click on sign in. Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you remember, yesterday I gave you a two of the permissions, right?
Mm-hmm.
What type of the permission do you remember I gave you? So I gave you only EC2 instance permission and S3 bucket permission, right?
Right.
And when I gave you a permission, I just attached the policies related to EC2 instance and S3 bucket with your user directly without creating any IAM role, right?
Right.
So after that, I gave you username and password, and you are able to sign in into your console, right? Now,
Right.
let me give you the admin permission, so you are able to
Okay.
see the whole dashboard. Okay, this raw dev, add permissions. Yeah, check now. Just refresh your tab.
Yeah.
Here now you have all type of the permission, right? So if you can search, go to the search and search for the IAM. Yeah, and go to the users. Yeah, here is your user Rafi dev, right? So if let's check when we are going to create a user, is there any need to attach a role with it? So if you can go to create user, here you can see the button, yeah, orange one, and just write the some name. Just write any. Okay, and he asks you either you want to give this user access of AWS Management Console. So let's suppose we don't want to give him access of AWS Management Console. So go to next. Yeah, now he asking for you either you want to generate a password or custom password use for it. And next he says user must be create a new password next sign in. Okay, next, go to next.
This won't work because it's my email, so it had to be a different one, right?
Yeah, you can just write any username. You don't need to any write a Gmail. You just need to write a simple username, Chaudhary Digital. That's it. Instead of writing the full email, if you want. So just go next.
Mhm.
Right here you can see we didn't any find a role permission to attach with this user, right? We have three options to set the permission for our user, right? First one is add user to the group, right? So what is a group? Group is basically a set of permissions that we already set, and we add some peoples in that group, right? So
Mhm.
whatever the peoples add in this group have a similar permissions, right? Same
Mhm.
like a WhatsApp group, right? We make a WhatsApp group, and what is the purpose of creating a group? To send our one message to all the peoples in the group, right? So this
Mhm.
is the same, right? So if we want to create a some permission, right? And I want to give this permission, let's suppose 100 people, right? So that's why I will first make group and set a permission for this group. And once my group add permission are set, then I am just going to add the different user in this group, right? So any
Yep.
user in this group have a same type of the permission, right? So this is the
Right.
one option. Second option is copy permissions, right? What does it mean by
Right.
the copy permission? Copy permission means you already have an existing user, right?
Yep.
And your existing user has some set of permission, and you want to get same permissions to your new user, right? So you
Right.
can just go to the copy permission, and after copy permission you find the option of the different user that already created. So just click
Mm.
on that particular user which you want to give him the same access to your new user, right? So that is the copy permission means. And the third one is attach policies directly that we are usually used, right? So attach
Mhm.
policies directly means a set of permission you want to set for your new user, right? So let's suppose I want to give him this as of only S3 bucket, right? Means
Mhm.
particular bucket or specific for one service. So I can do it by using the tag policy directly, right? Or if I
Mhm.
want to give him the permission of administrator access, I can also do it by using attach policy directly. So if you can click on the attach policy directly, yeah. So here you can see the list of the permissions or 1656 total permission, built-in permissions that we will set for this user if we want, right? So I want to give only S3 bucket access to this user. So I will search for only S3 bucket permissions, right? So here you can see, and here you cannot see any type of the roles, right? So you can attach the policies directly to the user instead of making role, right? So
Mhm.
in AWS, when we're creating a user, so we don't need to create a role for it, right? We are going
Mhm.
to create a simple user and attaching the policies directly to it, right? So let's suppose
Mm-hmm.
if you want to give this user administrator access, you can in the search bar just search for this policy, or we can say the super access any type of, right? So you can search any type of the built-in policies you want to give to your user, right? So let's suppose I want to give him the administrator access. So you need to just click on a particular box, checkbox. Yeah. And after checkbox, just go to the next in the bottom. Yeah, go to next. So here is the overview of what you are actually creating. So he says you are going to create a user with this username chaudharydigital@gmail.com, and after that he says console password type is custom password. That's mean whenever the user with the name of Chaudhary Digital are going to log in, he's going to use the same password which you set earlier, right? And after that he says required password reset. No, that's mean there is no need to reset this password, right? And after
Mm.
that he says the permission summary, like what type of the permissions you will be attached to this user. So we attach we only set the one or we only select the one permission previously, which is the administrator access, right? So when we click
Mm-hmm.
on the create user, our user are going to be created successfully, and we are able to use these particular credentials, or we can send this credential to the some person which we want to give him the access of this account, right? So that's
Right.
how the simple user created. And if we can talk about a role, then role, so if you want to create a user, just click on create user. If you don't want to create it, just go back, right? Cancel, just press cancel. Yeah, okay. So that's how we can give access to the some users and attach some permissions to it, right? Now let's discuss what is the purpose of the role, right? So role is specifically for services, AWS services, not for the user, right? So whenever some service need a permission to other service, so how we can give the permission to that service? We can give permission by using the role, right? So we are going to create a role for that particular service. And after creating a role for that particular service, we are going to just attach this role with this particular service, and this service automatically set the permission for this particular services, right? So let's suppose
Mm-hmm.
let's do the demo, right? So
Mm-hmm.
first of all, we need to create an EC2 instance, right? So we already know what is the EC2 instance. So we are going to cover in the AWS CD certification. A really important part is covered by the EC2 instance, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now we are going to discuss about EC2 instance, and in this topic we are also going to discuss about the roles, right? So if I want to create an EC2 instance, so where I have to go first? Yeah, Rafi. Yeah,
This one.
yeah. So this is the EC2 instance, right? So currently, let's check how many instances we have. So we have 0 instances, right? So if I want to create an instance, how I can create it? Just click on instances. Yeah. And after that, we need to create a some new instance, right? So how we can
Mm-hmm.
create a new instance? Just click on launch instance. Yeah. So basically what we are going to do now, we are actually creating a some instance, right? So if in the certification, let's suppose you have a question, right? But question is, uh, it says, so what type of instance you create on AWS, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have multiple options. For example, Amazon Linux, Mac OS, Ubuntu, and the option is all of that. So what you are going to select?
Repeat the questions one more time.
So I said you, let's suppose in the certification you have a question. How many type of instances you create on AWS, right? And for the option you have Linux, Mac OS, Ubuntu, and D1 is all of that.
Mac OS, Linux, and what was the other one? Ubuntu?
Ubuntu and D option is all of this.
All of the above.
Yes, all of the above. Why? Because in AWS we have a service with the name of EC2, right? And this EC2 service basically provide us the facility to create any type of the instance, right? Any type of instance means
Yeah.
we can create any type of operating system in it, right? Either it is Linux based, either it is Windows based, either it is Ubuntu based, Mac OS, Red, any type of the instance you can easily create it by using this service, EC2 service, right? So that is the
Yes.
purpose of creating a EC2 instance. And what does it mean by instance?
What it means by instance is that particular that particular environment for that particular user.
No,
Oh.
no. Instance mean server. So you have to always remember, you have to always remember there are multiple names of server, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in simple word, we can call a machine, right? So
Mm-hmm.
currently you are working on your machine, it is also an instance, or we can also say it's server, or we can also say it node, right? So this all of these names are basically name of your machine, right? So if someone says, where is my instance? If someone says, where is my node? If someone says, uh, where is my server instance or node or machine? All of these names are the same, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
mean particular machine, right? So if I am talking about, if I am currently working in my window machine, right? So it is also my window server. It is also my window node. It is also my window instance. It is also my window EC2, right? So these
Mm-hmm.
names are totally related to a machine, right? So whenever you hear some word related to instance, node, server, machine, so these names are totally same, right? So basically, launch an instance means we are going to create a machine on AWS, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, first of all, he gave you and he asking you to set a name for your machine, right? So let's
Mm-hmm.
suppose I want to create a window instance, right? So to creating a window instance, I will set the name according to it, right? So I can easily remember what type of the instance is. So could you please tell me how you can name it? So my particular requirement is I want to create a window instance, means window machine on AWS, right? So you have to set the name according to it. If you remember in our first of the lectures we uh discussed or we learned whenever we set the name on AWS, we are not going to use the spaces, right? Instead of spaces, we will use no, not underscore. We are going to use a simple dash.
I
Yes.
use apostrophe.
No, no, no. There is no need to use apostrophe. And also always try to make your whole name in lowercase, right? So there is no concept of writing the uppercase letters. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, now it's fine, right? So now your name says you are going to create a window EC2 instance for Rafi, right?
Mhm.
So now we set the name. Now go down just little bit. Now we have a second option. Just go up very little. Yeah. So here you can see we have second option, which is application and OS images, right? Or in the AWS, we can say it Amazon machine image. So do you know what does mean by Amazon machine image, or we can say application and OS images?
No. Let me ask another question real quick. What time are we ending this class?
We are going to end in just half an hour, or
So 5:30 p.m. Central Time, right?
yeah. Do you have any idea?
No, no, I'm just planning my next class. So okay, that's fine. Okay.
Okay, okay, okay.
Um,
Okay, so basically, what does it mean by Amazon machine image, or we can say the application and operating system images? We can say the operating system, right? And what does it mean by operating system? Operating system, what does it mean by operating system? Do you know?
yeah, like the how do I explain? Operating system is system on which the instance will run, like Linux versus Mac versus Windows.
Yeah. So
Say,
operating system, we can say in simple word in computer terms, we can say it is a software that actually manage your computer hardware and software resources, right? And if we
mm,
can talk about, we have a multiple type of the operating system, right? One is Windows, one is Mac, one is Ubuntu, one is Linux. So all of these are the different type of the operating system, right? So in simple word, we can call him operating system, and when we move toward the AWS, we can call it Amazon machine image, right? Just
mhm,
just a difference of the name, right? So in simple term, we can call operating system, but in the Amazon, when we work on it, we say it Amazon machine image, or we can say the OS images, right?
mhm.
So here you can see the multiple option, like which machine you want to create. So for our particular requirement, what machine we are going to create?
Windows.
Yes, Windows, right? So we need to click on the Windows. Yeah, and go down. So in Windows we have some flavors, right? So just so in Windows we also have, just go up very little bit. Yeah. So after selecting the window, now we have to select some AMI, right? Amazon machine image. What does it mean by Amazon machine image? It is simply, okay, you selected the window. Now selected what type of the window you wanted, right? Either you wanted a Microsoft Windows Server 2025 base image, or Windows Server 2022 base image, right? So what type of the version of the window you want to create for it, right? So we are going, if you click on this Microsoft Windows Server 2025 base, just click on it.
Mhm,
Yeah, yeah. Here you can see the different flavors for your window, right? So you can select any type of the AMI according to your need, right? So we are going to go with the latest one, right? Micro Windows Server 2025 base, right? And in the right side you see the option free tier eligible. What does it means?
mm.
Yeah, what does it means
Meaning
by
that you
free
can
tier?
run a free, if you can run it on the free version of the AWS, like without
Yeah,
having to
that's
pay for
mean
it.
this AMI is free, right? So it doesn't charge you, right? So we are going to go with this one, Microsoft Windows Server 2025 base. Just click on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. After that we select the operating system and AMI. Now we need to go down. Now we are going to select the instance type, right? Go down. Yeah, here. Here you can see instance type. What does it mean by instance type?
It means like the
Okay, tell me one thing. When
what type
you
of server, like what kind of capacity, space, how quickly will
yeah,
it,
definitely,
how much storage
definitely,
space, how quickly will it bring back
definitely.
the or show the kind of traffic it can handle, all those things.
Definitely. So whenever we go to the market to purchase some PC for us, right? So we always focused on some specs, right?
Hmm.
What type of the specs? We ask the shopkeepers, like what is the RAM of this PC and what is the hard of this PC, what is the SSD of this PC, right? So we are going to select those PCs or one of them PCs which actually meets our requirement, right? Let's suppose you want to run a very high load in your machine, right? So you are going to go with the higher specs, right? For
Hmm.
example, if I am a developer, so being a developer, I want to run a very, expensive or very complex type of the software in my machine, right? And
Hmm.
for running this software, complex software in my machine, I need what type of the machine?
Um, to run the complex software, you need something that can handle that sort of that has that kind of
Yes,
memory,
that
that kind of
can, yeah, higher memory and higher CPU utilization, higher variable load machine, right?
right.
So that's the same thing, right? In AWS we can call him instance type, right? So according
Hmm.
to our requirement, what type of the machine we need, we are going to create by selecting the instance type, right? Currently,
Hmm.
the type which is selected is T3.micro, right?
Hmm.
So it is also giving you the spec of this type. It says this machine has two vCPU. vCPU means two processors, right? And
Hmm.
1 GB memory. 1 GB memory means one RAM memory. Okay. So it has 1 GB RAM memory, right? And so this is the current spec of this type, right? So if you can click on this T3.micro, yeah, just click on it. Yeah, now you can see the multiple option. So if you can scroll down to this multiple options, you will see the definitely lot of options, right? So we can select the higher spec type according to our need, right? Let's suppose I want to uh, 8 vCPU, 16 vCPU, 48 vCPU, or 96 GB RAM. So I will select this type C5 dot large. If I need the 36 vCPU, 22 GB memory, right? So I will select this C5.9X large, right? So it's all depend upon the your requirement, workload requirement, that what type of the workload you want to run on your machine. So you need to select your type according to it, right? So currently
Hmm.
we are going to go with the free type or free type, right? So search for the T2, right? T2.micro. So this is basically the free instance type that we are going to use for this time. Just click on it and search for T2.micro. So what is this? It is not available for us right now. I think our free tire is automatically finished. That's why it doesn't give you a permission, right? Because you can use your free tire in the first 1 year or 6 months, right? And after that you are unable to use your free tire for this, right? So we are going
Hmm.
to go with the T3.micro, right? So just go with the T3.micro, which is already selected. So just click on this, yeah. And after that, we have a key pair, right? So
Yeah.
do you know what does it mean by key pair?
A key pair.
This is very simple. So,
Um,
mhm,
it's basically a key that you use to
yes,
connect your instance to your
definitely.
hold on. You're basically using it to connect your instance
Yes.
to the
So,
web,
so
I guess.
basically, no. So basically, what is the purpose of creating the key pair is that you create the key pair to connect this instance with your local machine, right?
Oh
So
yeah, that's right. To
yeah.
the yeah, yeah, exactly.
So basically, when we are going to create this instance is currently located on AWS, right? So what if
Hmm.
I want to make some connection with this instance? So I will be able to add some file in this instance and put my some code or any type of the code in this instance. So firstly, we need to connect with this instance, right?
Right,
So for the connection, we need a key pair, right? So key pair is
right.
something like a security purpose, right? What does it mean by how it secure our instance? So our instance are going to be make a connection with only those machines which has key pairs, right?
Hmm.
So if some machine does not have this key pair, then this machine are not going to establish a connection with those machines, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's the purpose of the key pair, right? So we need to create a key pair for this machine, right? So how we can create it? You just need to click on create new key pair on a
Dan,
very
can you give
nice.
me just a minute? I need to
Yeah.
get a
Okay.
drink real quick. I'm getting tired, so I need to get a cup of coffee. 1 second. Just 1 second.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Hey, Zane, so sorry. I'm back. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry
Okay,
about that. I'm back now.
okay, okay. So basically, we are discussing about types. So we selected type, and after that, we are discussing about key pairs, right?
Right.
So yeah, so what is the purpose of key pair is actually is that whenever we want to make a connection with this instance, we need a key pair, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and the actual purpose of creating the key pair is that it actually secure our instance
Mm-hmm.
to any type of the unauthorized access, right?
Mm-hmm.
So only those machines or only those persons who have the key pairs are able to connect with this instance, right? Otherwise, they are unable to do this. So we need to create a new key pair for it, right? So click on
Mm-hmm.
create new key pair.
Create new key pair.
Yeah, just get rid of it. This just click it and yeah, here you can see in the right side you have option create a new key pair. Yeah, so you can give any name to this key pair. Let's suppose any meaningful name. First of all, we can do it name window dash key pair, right? Don't use any uppercase
Okay.
letter. Yeah, for W. Yeah, make it in lowercase w. Yeah, okay. And then we have some key pair type, right? What type of the key pair we want. So we are going to go with the default RSA, that's mean encrypted key pair, right? And after that
Right.
we have a file format, right? What type of the key pair we want, right? Usually we use the .pem key pair. That is basically the open SSH key pair that is used in command line, right? And other we have a PPK option, which is putty. Putty is basically the software that we need to install in our machine if we make or establish a connection with this instance, right? So for
Right.
this type, we need to install a putty, but we are not going to use a PPK type because for this type we need to install putty, right? We are going to go with the default option which is .pem, right? And after that we just need to click on create key pair. Yeah, so once it is created, now you can see the key in the key pair name we have the same key pair we have just created, right? Window key pair. And after
Mm-hmm.
creating this key pair, now go down. Yeah, now we need to select some setting related to our network, right? What does it mean by network setting? So our instance are creating in some network settings, right? Means in which VPC you want to create your EC2 instance, right? Or in which subnet you want to create an EC2 instance, right? So let me tell you what does it mean by the network setting for our EC2 instance. So let's suppose I give you a task to create a public EC2 instance, or we can say a public machine or private machine, right? Or we can say a private EC2 instance. So first of all, we need to make a differentiate. What does it mean by public and private instance? So do you know?
Yeah. A public instance would allow other people could see the instance and the information in it and could access the applications or whatever publicly. And then the secured would be private would be just it's only accessible to, people that we share it with and ourselves basically, right? And the public one, you can other people on the internet can access as long as they have the link to access it, I guess.
So I have a question for you. Can I access my private instance through internet? Means
Just by going into the URL,
that
right, without
no
logging in.
that means does my private EC2 instance has internet access.
Does it have internet access?
That's mean, let's suppose,
Um,
okay, let me make it easy for you, right?
until you
So
connect it with a key pair, your local one will not have
key
access to
pair
the
is only
server.
for connection. Key pair is only for the connection, right? But now we are talking about what is the difference between public server and private servers, right? So let me make it easy for you. So public server is basically the server that is accessible to all over the world, or we can say all of the peoples, right? So
Hmm.
everyone can access this server, make a connection with this server, and after making a connection, everyone can make a download some software in it, right? Any type of the task we can do it easily on public server, right? And
Right.
if we install or deploy some application in in that public server, we can easily access it by using the public URL of this instance, right? So let's suppose
Yes.
I have Rafi Chaudhary website, right? So I want to deploy this website on my this public server, right? So first of all, I need to make a connection with this server, and once I make a connection, I am going to download some files in that server, and after installing the some files in it, I will deploy your whole application in that server, right? Once our application install and deploy successfully, then I am easily access your website by just clicking on the public IP of this server, right? And when I wrote this when I wrote this public IP in my browser, I can easily access it, right?
Hmm.
But but what is the disadvantage of creating a public server? So for this main disadvantage of creating the public server is that everyone can access of this server, right? So anyone or unauthorized person can make, or we can say make a connection with your server and snatch your files and snatch your whole data easily, right? If your server is public, right? So that's why
Hmm.
we didn't deploy our prod application in the public servers, right? We only use the private server for it, right? So private
Hmm.
server is the one which does not have any type of internet access, right? So any user who is in the internet are not authorized to come into the private subnet, right? So he
Hmm.
is only authorized in a different way, right? For example, if he want to communicate with our private server, then he first of all he will go to some load balancer, right? Or we can say our domain. And once our domain are configured, he will check either it is authentic user or not, right? Then this domain goes track will forward this traffic to our instance, right? So that's how we actually protect our application from unauthorized user, right? So that's
Hmm.
the main difference between creating a public and private servers, right? So now I will give you a task. You have to create a public server. So how you can create it? Because currently we are on the edge of creating an instance, right? So your boss gives you a task to create a public instance or private instance. So how you can create it? So you can create it by going to the network settings of this instance, right? So currently we are in the network setting of this instance, right? Go up. Yeah, network setting. Yeah, just go a little bit up. So this is the whole network setting. Here you can see the network setting, right? So all these options are related to the network setting, right? So if we want to create a public or private instance, we can select this type, public or private in this network setting, right? So first
Hmm.
of all, we have option of VPC, right? In the network tab, you see the option, on our right side, you see the option of edit, right? Edit means you want to make some changes in your network setting. You can do it by just clicking on this edit button on a very right side. Yeah. So what type of the VPC we want for this instance, right? VPC is something like a virtual private cloud, right? That is
Yep.
basically, we can say, a box, right, in which our different AWS services are located, right? So what is the purpose
Yes.
of creating the VPC is basically, we can say, make individual box for different type of the services, right?
Right.
So they are basically independent and does not depend to the other people services, right? So that's the purpose of
Hmm.
creating a VPC, right? So that's really help us to make some secure connection with our in the within the AWS, right? So we have a multiple option to check. Just click on this VPC and check if we have other VPCs. VPCs. No, no, in the very lower, yeah, this one. Yeah, so we have AWS control tower VPC. We can use this VPC if we want, right? So we can go with the default VPCs, right? Just click on it. Yeah. So after that we have a subnet, right? In the subnet we actually select either we want to create a public server or private server, right? So if I want to create a public server, then I can put this server in a public subnet. If I want to create a private server, then I will go with the private subnet option, right? So just click on the subnet select option to select either you want to create a public server, so you need to select the public subnet option. If you want to create a private subnet option, you need to click on the private subnet option, right? So currently there is no subnet associated with this VPC, right? So just try with the other VPC. Go to the VPC and try to select other VPC if they have some subnets. Yeah, click on it. Yeah, check if, yeah, now it has the different VPCs subnets, right? Just click on this subnet and check how many subnets it is in. They have, yeah. So it has,
I don't think I understand what is a subnet. Like,
yeah,
okay, VPC is a
okay.
virtual private cloud, right?
Yeah, it is something like a box where the
It's
different services are
your
located. Yeah, okay, okay,
okay.
please.
Let me explain so that I
Yeah,
understand that I understand it. So basically, a virtual private cloud is your piece of real estate within the cloud that you have access to. It's like you built your own little house in the cloud, essentially, right?
yeah,
That is a VPC, virtual
yeah,
private cloud. Okay.
yes.
So a
And what
subnet
is the, yeah.
is what?
Subnet is basically,
I don't understand this.
okay, let me tell you. Subnet is basically something like a network mask, right? But it doesn't mean a network mask. So if I want to create some public things or private things, then we have two type of the subnets. One is public subnet and one is private subnets, right? So if I
Hmm.
want to make some service private, I can put this service into private subnet. If I want to make some AWS services public, then I can put these services into the public subnet, right? So
Hmm.
that's the purpose of creating a subnet, right? So subnet, we can say, in a box. Box is a VPC, and in the box we have two type of the subnets, right?
Hmm.
Let's suppose public subnets and private subnets, right? And in these subnets we can put our actual services, right? If we created
Hmm.
the EC2 instance, we can put this EC2 instance in subnets, right? And subnets are located in VPCs, right? So we have some flow of it, right? First of all, we have VPC, and VPCs we have a multiple subnets, right? Multiple subnet means, let's suppose we have two public subnets, two private subnets, right? And if I want to make our instance public, then I can put this instance into my public subnet. If I want to create my EC2 instance private, then I can put this instance into my private instance, right? So
Yeah.
that's the purpose of creating the subnet. Yeah, please.
Um, I don't know if I understood the explanation completely. Okay, now in the most beginner-friendly language that you can possibly come up with, explain to me what is a virtual private network and what is a subnet. within AWS.
Not a virtual private network, it is a virtual private cloud. So virtual private network is a
Oh
VPN, right?
shit. There,
VPN
yeah.
is a different thing. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the same analogy that I explained to you earlier.
Yeah, definitely. It's something like a box, or we can say apartment, in which we have a different sources, right? And in VPCs we have subnets, right? So here you can see, think of subnet like a room inside your apartment. VPC is apartment and subnet is a room, right?
Mm.
And EC2 instance is a thing that is located in a room, like a lamp, like a fan, like a switches, right?
So, okay, so public subnet equals open to the internet, living room where guests can visit, example, a web server. Private
Yeah,
subnet would be hidden, your bedroom where you keep your private stuff, example,
yeah.
database that only your
So
applications can access.
let's suppose apartment is a
Mm,
VPC, right? And in the apartment we have a rooms, right?
mm-hmm,
So let's suppose one room is a private room and another room is public room, right? Public room has, everyone can access the public room, but the private one is nobody can access the private room, right? So if I am going into the public room, then anything
mm-hmm,
in this room are easily accessible, right? But
mm-hmm,
if I doesn't have an access of the private room, then I am also unable to access anything in the private room, right? Why? Because I does not have an access of this private subnet, right? Means private
mm-hmm,
room. So same thing is that your subnets have two types, one is public and private. And if you want to make some web server or EC2 instances private or public, you can put this server according to this subnet, right? So if I want to create a public server, or we can say a public instance, I can put this server into public subnet. If I want
mm-hmm,
to create a private server, then I can put my server into the private subnet, right?
mm-hmm. Yes.
That is, yeah. Now go to the again your AWS console. Yeah, so we doesn't have the public subnet for this VPC, so we can go with the default one, which is private, right? And after that we have an option with the auto sign public IP. What does it mean by auto sign public IP? So we can only assign the public IP for the public instances, right? So we are
Mm-hmm,
unable to assign the public IPs for private instances, right? So
mm-hmm,
currently we put this instance into the private subnet, right? So you have to disable this option. Auto sign public IP disabled. Yeah. And after that, we have a security group. Maybe you know about
mm-hmm.
it because you have Okta certification. Do you know what does it mean by security group or firewall, something like that? Just thinking about a firewall. What does it mean by firewall?
Yeah, this is basically where you're basically setting up the logic behind what kind of traffic can access your website. So, for example, you only allow certain IPs or you block access from certain IPs
Yes.
or certain countries. You can dictate. You can also
Yeah.
dictate,
Yes.
um, I
So
guess,
all type
IP
of
and
the
country
traffic,
location.
like what type of the traffics are, either it is incoming traffic or either it is outgoing traffic, right? So whatever the traffic
Mm-hmm,
is coming or outgoing is managed by security group in AWS, right?
mm-hmm,
So I am going to attach some security group with my EC2 instance, right? So
yeah.
basically I define what type of the traffic I want to comes in my EC2 instance and comes out to my instance, right? So
Mm-hmm,
just go down, little bit go down. So here you see the option. First of all, you have to make a security group some name, right? So by default it name for you launch widget one. So you can go with the default one if you want, and just go down a little bit. Yeah. Then we have description, so you can set the description according to your own if you want, right? So we selected the window instance, right? And window instance we have a type of RDP. RDP means remote desktop protocol, right?
Mm-hmm.
RDP is basically for the window protocol that we use to access our window servers, right? So that's why it says the inbound security group rule. So we have two type of the rules, right, in security group.
Mm-hmm.
One is inbound and second one is outbound. What does it mean by inbound? Inbound means incoming roles and outbound means outgoing roles. And inbound roles, we are going to set the incoming traffic, what type of the traffic are going to comes in my EC2 instance, right? So
Mm-hmm.
basically in inbound security group roles, you are setting up the incoming traffic, right? What type of the traffic you want to allow in your instance, right? So currently we
Right.
just select, so if you want to select the all type of the traffics you want to comes in your server, you can easily select it by just going to the type, click on type, RDP, yeah, and you can see the all traffic option, yeah. All traffic means any type of the traffic comes into your server. Yeah, yeah, just click on all traffic, fifth option. Yeah, this one, all traffic, right? So any type of the traffics are now able to comes into your server, right? That means then can also set the server, Rafi can also set the server, every person in the world can easily set the server, right? But if we want to
Mm-hmm.
restrict this access, then we need to select a different type for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, I want to restrict this server only for the Rafi's IP, means only Rafi's IP are allowed to access this server, right? So how I can do
Mm-hmm.
it? So you just need to click on this type again because I don't want to give this server all traffic permission. So you just need to click on all traffic again. Here, yeah, this one. So you need to select the RDP again. That means remote desktop protocol means who can access my this window EC2 instance, RDP. Yeah. And after that, you need to select the source type. Click on source type. Yeah. And just select third option, my IP. My IP means it automatically fetch your machine IP, right?
Yeah.
So now it only allow you to connect with this EC2 instance, right? And no other person can access this machine, right? So this type of the settings we actually create or made in the security group level of this EC2 instance, right? And once we all set, we just click on
Mm-hmm.
this launch instance. Just click on launch instance. Yeah. So basically our instance are successfully created, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this instance are successfully created. So go to the instances, go to the instances. Yeah. So here our EC2 instance are in running state and this EC2 instance are the window based EC2 instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we can create the EC2 instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool.
Uh, so we don't need any this instance right now, so we can delete it, right? So how we can delete it? Just click on this checkbox, and after that go to the actions and select. No, no, sorry. Go to the instance state. Instance state, yeah, and terminate third option, yeah, yes. So these instances are going to be automatically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shutting down. Okay. Okay, Rafi. That's all for the lecture. And inshallah, we will try to cover up the AI things in our next lectures with the
Yep.
parallel of the certification, right?